What is up, Raveraide fam? Welcome to another episode of the Raveraide podcast with your host, Tyler Hardy. Just wanted to take a moment to express my overwhelming love and gratitude to each and every one of you guys who tune in on a daily and weekly basis to listen all things Raveraide, spirituality, personal development, health, biohacking, you name it. Whatever we talk about on this podcast is completely intended and designed to help you become a better, more self-actualized and self-love version of yourself, because that's what the world needs more than anything right now, and that's what we're here to contribute here at Raveraide. So hopping into today's episode, I want to talk about something that has been probably the single-handed most important game-changing thing that I do for myself on a daily basis, and it's probably the one thing that I would love to give to everybody on this planet, is the gift of meditation. And I'm going to explain, how I started meditating, what that journey's been like, what it's like now compared to what it was like when I first began. And it's been a really wild journey. It's something that you wouldn't think that you'd get so much out of, but it literally is basically the sandbox for creation of your new life and gaining higher levels of awareness, higher levels of perspective on why you are the way that you are, subconscious programming, conscious programming, neurolinguistic programming, like you name it. And there's a good probability that you're going to achieve altered states of consciousness inside of meditation. And so I think that where I want to start with the whole meditation journey was, there was just a day when I was in my room and something told me, you need to lay down and meditate. And I remember the first time that I meditated, I just sat there with my eyes closed and listened to some, binaural beats on YouTube. And just like, it lasted maybe 5 minutes and there was nothing significant, nothing, really like profound that happened per se. It was really just me just sitting there. And it was kind of that way for a while, but I just kind of stuck with it. And then eventually, early on when I was learning how to meditate, I didn't really understand the concept of the fact that the whole purpose of meditation is just to become an observer of your thoughts and become an observer of how your mind is interfacing with itself, the conscious and subconscious mind, which is something I learned more down the road. But I would use it as a way to de-stress from my day-to-day. So at the very least, if you're somebody who's not really super into like the spiritual side of things, the physical and mental benefits that you're going to gain from meditation is definitely there, just in regards to being able to de-stress or to help regulate your nervous system, which is another major benefit of meditation. And so it's really important to know that there's a list of benefits that can be achieved from meditation on a daily basis. And so after a while, I started having more profound experiences where they seemed to be more mystical. I started feeling like I was connecting to something greater than myself. And it's been one of those things where that connection continues to grow and strengthen, and the ability to get there is a lot easier because there is an infinite intelligence that's operating this whole thing that's much more intelligent than we are from our limited perspective that we experience life from in our human bodies. And it's one of those things where being able to tap into that infinite intelligence gives you a major one-up. It gives you the opportunity to synchronize with creation. So then that way you can actually create something of value. You can start making change in your life. You can gain higher levels of awareness around why you are the way that you are, traumas, patterns, anything that you can imagine like can potentially unwind inside of a meditation practice. And that's the beauty of it is we live in a world that is so conditioned to go, 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 wake up every morning, don't think about yourself, hardly take care of yourself, load yourself up on a sugar-loaded breakfast, and then drink stimulants, take stimulants every single day, go, 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 go. Don't even give yourself a second to breathe or be a human. And as a result of that, that's why we see people, having adrenal fatigue, being burned out, being depressed, being miserable, hating life, not living in their purpose. It's very easy to see why, most humans live the way that they do. And it's because they don't give themselves the time to cultivate a meditative practice. They don't give themselves enough time to rest and, really focus on the inner workings of why they are the way that they are. They just go, go, go. And we're not taught to, slow down and become introspective of our reality. And that's why so many people tend to struggle. And when it comes to bringing up their emotions or having any sort of, intellectual depth, they don't have it because they have never been taught to. And what I can tell you right now is that you can teach yourself to go deep with yourself through meditation. And that's what I've really learned. I will tell you right now that Raveraide would not be what it is. Probably wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for cultivating that meditative practice, years before it actually became a thing. And that's how I start my day off every single morning. When I wake up and I sit down and I do a combination now of seated meditation with alpha wave binaural beats, because when we're in alpha wave brain states, it actually helps us with making our inner world appear more real than our outer world. So that way we can work on the things internally and actually process emotion, process thought, manifest from within, and create the life that we're intending to have outside of ourselves. And that's what I do every single morning. And I combine that with 40 breaths of holotropic kundalini breath work, and that really helps me get into my body and activate the energy in my body, so then that way I can tap into that higher level of intelligence. That way I can get that inspiration and really focus on training my body to be what I want it to be before the experience happens, because the mind cannot differentiate what's happening internally versus what's happening externally. So you can essentially pre-program your body to have experiences and feel the way you want it to feel way ahead of the experience. And that's actually how you draw the experience in, because you become a vibrational match with what it is that you're intending to create for yourself. And that's been the shift in what my meditation practice is like when I first started and what it's like now. Is I realize how powerful the human mind is and how much it dictates the experience that we have outside of ourselves externally, what's reflecting back to us. And when you realize how important your mind is, how important the subconscious mind is, how important the conscious mind is, and how they interface with one another, once you gain a level of understanding about how that works, you can really create essentially anything. And that's one thing that's been really important through this journey. But in addition to what it's doing for your mind, you can heal your body by giving it that time and space to rest. Because I'll tell you a quick story, kind of backing up a little bit, about when I was meditating, the year that it was 2020. Yeah, 2020. That summer, like, my hormonal balance was completely off. And I attribute a huge reason as to why my hormones are balanced now and I'm healthier than I've ever been, to all the hours that I put into meditating, to all the hours that I dedicated to just laying there and being with myself and giving my body the opportunity to heal itself. And that's the reason why most people don't heal when they become sick or ill, is because they don't give themselves the time to process the emotion, first off, that is correlated to it. But also on top of that, they don't give themselves the time to rest and heal and allow their bodies to go into a parasympathetic state to actually start making that change and experience neurogenesis or cellular turnover or autophagy and all these things that are actually possible by combining different health modalities like meditation, fasting, proper diet, nutrition, supplementation. All that stuff really plays into the level of how well we can heal our bodies, and realizing that the mind can heal the body. And that's one of the most important things that I want you to know, is that no matter where you're at, no matter what you've experienced, like, the body is an incredible machine. It's an incredible vessel that can do so much for you. And once it's damaged, it has a potential to heal itself if you give it the right environment, time, and space to do so. And so at that time, my hormones were in the dumps. I was like literally meditating for like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And it was just one of those things where it was my opportunity to, go deep with myself and experience more about myself and my emotions, and see how, the emotions that I was living out on a daily basis were actually causing my central nervous system to not be regulated and constantly in fight or flight. And also my brainwave patterns and brainwave frequencies were definitely incoherent. I was probably more towards like a high range beta brainwave, which is really fast cycling brainwaves, upwards of like 30 per second in your brain. And what happens with that is you're constantly looking for the thing that's going to potentially hurt you or kill you outside of yourself, and it causes you to never be able to relax and regulate. And it affected my digestion, it affected my mental health, it affected my vision, it affected my energy levels, it affected my work and my ability to provide for myself. And so it was really an interesting experience, because like contrary to what you would think, when you're struggling, you just keep pushing harder. And that's something that I would do as well. But I got to a point where my body just said no more. And really, the only thing that you have time for at this point is to meditate and to lay down and take care of yourself. Like, handle the most important things that you need to handle on a daily basis. But after that, you're going to be meditating all day. And I did that for almost an entire, 6, 7, 8 months. And then I started looking into different herbs and stuff like that, and alternative medicines. And I was able to start finding the things that were helping with, repairing my body. But again, just attributing how important it is to meditate. I see a stark difference, massive difference in the people that I know that meditate versus the people that I don't. I see their consciousness, I see their awareness, I see the way that they show up for themselves. I see the vitality and energy that they have compared to people who do not. I see how much more effective they are on a daily basis with their work, their mission, their purpose, finding clarity. When you meditate, it literally makes you into a superhuman. And that's why we're such a big advocate of that here at Raveraide, is because we know that the vibrational center point of the universe resides within you, and the vibrational center point of your existence resides within you. So everything that's being created in your life, everything that's happening in your life is emanating in some way, shape, or form from your internal state and your belief systems and how well your central nervous system is regulated. And that's why I'm not a huge fan of stimulants, because it jacks up our central nervous system, and that's where we're creating from. So meditation has really allowed me to come into a much more calm, centered space, but still have more energy than I've ever been able to have in my life, because I'm tapping into something that's greater than myself. It's not just me. And I think that's another thing I want to touch on here with meditation, is that I learned that I wasn't alone. And I learned that I've never been alone my entire life. So if you're one of those people who believes that you're alone and lonely, and no one really cares about you, or whatever your belief system is, meditation showed me that there is a vast system and universe of creation that we can have access to at any given time if we dedicate ourselves to our practice. And it allows us to become more aware and see that this whole thing is actually helping you to thrive and succeed. And that's been the biggest shit that's happened, is I went from being a very, victim consciousness minded person to, oh, nothing works out for me, my trauma is this, blah, 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 into this person that goes, oh my gosh, this thing has been helping me all along. Actually, the things that have been challenging in my life actually have been my greatest gift that I've been able to alchemize, because I've given myself the time, space, and awareness to see that those are the things that help me relate to others more. Those are the things that give me a reason to speak on this podcast and actually bring effective information to people. Because if I didn't have challenge, if I didn't have struggle, if I didn't have those things, then it'd be really hard for me to be able to have anything to relate to you about, or relate to the collective about, or relate to the world about. Because people who have easy lives, they tend to not really need to go deep or have any sort of intellectual capacity, because of the fact that they don't have anything to relate to people on. They don't have any struggles to relate to. They don't have any challenges. They don't have anything that's required them to be more than what they previously were, and require them to step into a better version of themselves, or a more capable version of themselves. And so that's where you really start seeing the perfection of this entire experience. You start seeing the perfection in your own life. You start seeing the synchronicities. You start seeing the truth. And I think the biggest thing that, pushes me to continue to do these things on a daily basis is that I am constantly in the pursuit of truth. And I'm in the pursuit of finding out what is really going on here, and what we're really capable of doing here, and how we can really make the world a great place for everyone. And I will continue to make that pursuit for as long as I'm alive, because it's what I care about the most. And whether that reflects through Raveraide, through this podcast, through my relationships with people, visiting with people one-to-one, my intent is always to try to help other people and myself, because I know that when I'm helping others, I'm helping myself, because we're all one. And so it's really important to know that, setting the tone for your day and getting into the correct headspace is the most important thing that you do, because it sets the vibrational basis for how your day is going to play out. And even if something doesn't play out the way you want it to, it's about your internal state and how you react to that state. and how you react to that moment and that experience. So if something doesn't go the way that you initially planned or the way that your ego wanted it to, you're able to see, okay, that didn't work out. Maybe that wasn't intended for me, versus becoming emotionally attached to an outcome, or being in a place where, you feel like your day got ruined, which is so common. I hear people say, oh, my day got ruined. So-and-so ruined it. My wife pissed me off. My husband pissed me off. My, boss pissed me off. It's like you get to a point where if you have a high level of awareness, you realize that you're just becoming the observer of the reality. And that sometimes when things don't work out, it's ultimately for your best interest, and there's no sense in trying to force things into your reality. And that's something that I've learned through meditation, is that, when I would try to tap into, source or whatever you'd want to call it, trying to like force my way into it, it doesn't work. You have to go into it as nobody and no place and no time. And you have to realize that, to be in what we call the unified field, you have to be unified with it. So that's where individualism and ego cannot survive. And so it's really helped a lot with, becoming more whole-centered on, everything that I do. I think more about others. I think more about, the impact of what we're doing here at Raveraide and how that affects the planet, or how that affects the community, or how that affects people's health, rather than just, hey, I want to create this just so that way I can benefit from it. That's a byproduct of taking good care of people. If we take good care of our customers and our family members, then they're going to take care of everything that we need on the back end. It's how that works. It's a mutual energy exchange. And that's, another thing that meditation's really taught me, is that we're in this place where, it's not just about you. It's not just about what you want. It's about what the universe wants and what creation wants, and how you can play into that and how you can be a part of that if you so choose to. And it's so much more fulfilling. I think the reason that we, have so much struggle on this planet is because people are so disconnected. Because when we come into this lifetime, we forget that we are connected to everything and everyone, and it's our job to remember that and embody that and actually carry that out in our day-to-day life, and the way that we interweave that spiritualness into our day-to-day life and our creation is super important. I think so many people miss that. They stick into the worldly components of life, and a lot of the world right now is set in the basis of ego and separation and lack and scarcity, and that's why so many people are experiencing struggle on this planet. And that goes from, the average person to our leadership, to businesses that are, dominating the markets. It's shown itself in every single aspect and component of human existence. And so in pursuit of the truth, we want to be completely different than that. We want to show up in a different way, so then that way we can actually positively give people reference points and models for what's actually possible for the future. Because I was talking to a good friend about this last night, is people will change when they see that there's something else that's potentially greater for themselves, and it's a system that works better than the old system. So when we start having more people step into their power and start actually carrying out what they're supposed to do and their purpose and their gift, a better system will come about in all capacities, in all areas of life, and then we will make that transition. But that it can only happen once you do the healing, once you do the work, once you become aware of your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, and how it interfaces, and how you're playing an equal part in what's being created in your life, and seeing that you can actually cause the effect in a lot of ways when you actually do the work and become more synchronized with yourself, your higher self, creation, and become what it is that you're actually capable of becoming. So if you're someone who doesn't know where to start with meditation, and you say, oh, this is the most common thing I hear, I don't have time. Well, if you don't have time, then you should definitely have time, because that's one of those things that meditation's taught me, is that you always have time. You just don't prioritize what's important to you. And meditation really helps you slow things down, so that way you can get more done and be more effective every single day. So that time investment you make is actually going to help you gain more time, as weird as that is to say. And so, if you don't know where to start, some resources that I'm a huge advocate of, ones that really helped me go to the next level of my meditation practice, is the Monroe Meditation Institute. And it was created by Robert Monroe, and he's no longer living at this time, but he created this program called HemiSync. And the whole intention of the program is to help out with hemisphere synchronization between the left and the right with your corpus callosum. Because it's a really interesting known fact that if you put 95 hertz in one ear and you put 100 in the other, your brain actually has this ability to essentially cancel it out and create 5, which would be, I believe, delta or theta brainwave frequencies. And so it's amazing what the mind can do, especially, when you're able to see and utilize both components of your brain. God or the universe wouldn't create, a brain that you only use half of, right? It's our job to remember how to use both sides. And so you're able to tap into that creative side when you need to. You're able to tap into that logical side when you need to. And then they start interweaving and you become essentially much more capable than you were, before. Like even things I've noticed like as of late is I'm much more like ambidextrous since I started meditating compared to when I wasn't. Like I was very right hand dominant with everything that I did. Now I'm much more ambidextrous. Like I can move my hands in similar ways compared to how I did when I was younger. And I can move my feet and my body, my proprioception so much better. There's just so many benefits that are gained. And those are all anecdotal, obviously. But it's one of those things where meditation really has been the basis of the quality of life that I experience now. It's been everything in a lot of ways. And it's been everything when I really needed it to be. And sometimes when I don't do it as much, it always finds its way back because I know how much of an emphasis I have on doing it and how much better it makes my quality of life and how much better of a human it makes me on every single capacity. So when you know that something's that valuable to you, you will make the time for it. You will make a commitment to making sure that it happens. And then you start seeing how that small amount of time, that 15, 20, 30 minutes a day that you spend actually puts you into a place where the rest of your day you're much more in control of. You're much more conscious of what you're actually creating in your life. And that's what's going to help you become the person that you're ultimately meant to be. And so I'm going to wrap up today's episode, you guys. I will make sure to put the link for Monroe Meditation Institute in the show notes as well, and that's something that you're interested in. It's just one of those things where you cultivate your own practice too. It's like there's no intention or goal associated to meditation. It's just becoming the observer of your reality and watching how your mind interfaces with itself. And over enough time, you will be able to tap into that subconscious mind. And when you get to that point, that's when you're able to start rapidly manifesting and actually starting to rapidly make change because you see the things that you have been running on, the programs you've been running on that have kept you in a predictable past, which has been getting you the same results that you've been frustrated with or unhappy with in your life. And you're actually able to start making those changes. And it's one of the most liberating, freeing things that you'll ever experience in this human experience so far from, my experience. But I hope you guys have an amazing day. Be sure to check us out at www.drinkraveraide.com. And as always, we appreciate the support that we get from every single one of you who buys our products, who tunes into our podcast, who shares our content online. Because without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. The reason I'm doing all this, the reason the team does this day in and day out is because we're here to help liberate human minds and help you step into the truth and what it is that you're actually meant to be in your life in your own unique way. And we're going to do everything we can day in and day out to make that a reality for as many people as possible on this planet. So I hope you guys have an amazing day and be sure to integrate something that felt true to you in this episode. That's the most important part in all of this is to integrate and make that change. So we'll talk to you soon. You have a great day. Peace.